Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome to a special edition of the ODPH podcast. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to you.
And ODPH Society, let me ask you one question. Are we ready to talk some football?
Hell yes.
So this is part 2 of our official ODPH podcast NFL preview, where we break down the conferences. Last episode was the AFC conference. Now we're going to deep dive into the NFC, give you all that you need to know about who is going to be one half of the dance partners going on to the Super Bowl in the top of 2025. So our intro is very, very short and sweet. For anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. Now let us get into it. First segment is going to be all about the NFC East and South. Then we talk about the NFC North and West when we come back for the second segment. And the third segment is playoffs and who is going to the big dance. So, Pad, I know we have to get the NFC least out of the way.
Listen, they're not the worst division in this conference.
Ooh, well, that's a new take that we're going to hear about. So let's get into the NFC East, shall we?
So obviously we're talking the NFC East, and last year the Dallas Cowboys won this division with a record of 12-5. Philadelphia Eagles finished right behind them with a record of 11-6. New York Football Giants were right behind them at 6-11, and the Washington Commanders were last with a record of 4-13.
So this season, I think it's pretty safe to say there's one team that stands above the rest. And that is Fly, Eagles, Fly. Philadelphia has really been the standard in this division for quite some time, in my opinion. And I think that they did a massive upgrade by acquiring one Saquon Barkley in free agency from the New York Giants. I mean, that is leaving your rival to go to... like I say, just the addition of that when key players leave teams for the rivals just blows my mind.
Talk about having an axe to grind.
Oh, completely. So this, I think, was the missing piece in the puzzle that Philadelphia needed. I mean, obviously, the past couple seasons, they've really made points to draft on the defensive side of the ball, but with Jalen Hurts really taking a hold of this offense and now having a true number one running back behind him, with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith as the wide receivers and Dallas Goedert as the tight end, this team is poised to make a run.
No, I agree with you. The other thing we should keep in mind, too, there has not, and I say not in all caps, bold and italicized, been a repeat winner in the NFC Eastern Conference since 2004. So that means if the trend continues, sorry, Dallas fans, it ain't going to be you. And I would agree with you. I think it's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles for all of the reasons you said. You know, listen, I realized I had a bit of a hiccup last year, but I think that was a learning experience for them. You know, came out the gate, they were red hot last season, and then they hit. I don't want to say it's a stumbling block, more of a stumbling cliff. Because it was not a great second half of the year for them. They really stumbled with that. And then, I look at the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, listen, Dallas is good. You know, they've still got Dak Prescott's there, Ezekiel Elliott back again after the moderate success he had in New England. I don't want to say it was great success. It was okay.
It was moderate.
Yeah. CeeDee Lamb's there, new contract, so we'll see if he's able to produce now that he's got his money. Brandon Cooks is still there. He's not bad. You know, Jalen Tolbert also there as wide receiver. Jake Ferguson, tight end. So, you know, the pieces are still there, but just, again, much like I said the last show with the Buffalo Bills, it's good, but it's not exactly enough for me to go, yeah, they did enough to really establish and cement themselves. It's more of like a lateral step sideways, or as I said with Buffalo, half step backwards.
There is a lot of moving parts with Dallas.
And
I know our guy, Dre Driven, shout out to Dre, is very optimistic for the season, and I have to kind of say I would go in with guarded expectations. Dak is not the worst quarterback as a lot of times the media perceives him to be.
He's good.
He's very good. I just think a lot of times he doesn't get the support from the team around him.
Yeah.
I think in the running back position, Ezekiel Elliott coming back is serviceable. I think the addition of Dalvin Cook is serviceable.
Yeah.
And Rico Dowd is serviceable. I don't really see any of these three at this stage in the careers being the breakout that the Dallas Cowboys have been known for on the running back position. I'm just sorry. I don't see it at this stage. they have transitioned more into throwing offense, and CeeDee Lamb, who finally got the contract drama out of the way, which, I mean, in my opinion, should have been handled a lot sooner than it was.
Agreed.
But then again, you deal with Jerry Jones as par for the course.
Nobody does this job better than I do.
Yeah. But CeeDee Lamb is now back with the team. Brandon Cooks, I mean,
He's decent.
he'll be solid for what you need
It's not
him
exactly
for.
Brandon Cooks in New Orleans good.
Oh, exactly. And I think that they have to realize that Jake Ferguson is a very steady tight end.
Yeah, he's decent.
Speed-wise, a little debatable, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. I think Dallas will contend, and they will definitely make some noise. I just don't know necessarily if this team can get over the hump or get out of its own way. In all honesty, I think they've had the potential for a few years, but they somehow find ways to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory.
Well, look at it. What was it, a couple years ago, where they had the best offensive line in football, and they had Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and all that whole entire offensive weaponry was just insane. And then they had the defense that was as stellar as can be on paper. When's the last time they won a Super Bowl? Oh, right, it wasn't that team. So, like, I agree with you. They've had all the potential, they've had all the promise and all the hope the last couple of years, but it's been a lot of disappointment.
Yeah, and the sad thing is their defense has been keeping them in games.
Oh, my God,
Their
yeah.
defense, albeit though, had some injuries last year,
Yeah.
but Trayvon Diggs, very solid corner.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, Micah Parsons, I mean, great end. And when you have Eric Kendricks, who is a very solid linebacker, that's going to be the key components for this team. So they just need to really show up and really put some pressure on the quarterback, which they can contend with. But the thing is, every time we anoint Dallas is like, this is supposed to be the year, they find ways to freeze. I don't know why.
They do.
And like I say, it's not necessarily on Dak. I know when Dak was hurt a couple times, the production went down because I think people finally realized Dak's not as bad as everybody says. I know he gets a bum rap a lot of times in the media, and I think it's very undeserved. I think he's very solid for what he needs to be. I think this team is going to contend. I could see them sneaking into a last playoff spot. I just don't think that when you compare them to the Philadelphia, I don't think they're there. I think they're just a step behind.
Agreed.
Talking about a step behind, you have a team that's rebuilding.
Yeah.
And I think they made a lot of smart moves this offseason, and that is the Washington Commanders, man.
Agreed.
I think this team finally started piecing it together. And I think, obviously, drafting Jaden Daniels from LSU as your quarterback of the future.
Great pick.
Helps tremendously.
Dude was a stud at LSU.
Yeah, and I think that you need that kind of dynamic player to lead this team because, let's face it, we're out of the Dan Snyder era. Dan Quinn is now your head coach, is what is.
Yeah.
I mean, he has shown flashes of brilliance too.
Yeah.
But I think on the offensive side of the ball, they've been really struggling to find the new face of the franchise.
Right.
I think we finally have it with Daniels.
Oh, yeah.
I really do.
Daniels is a great, dual option threat you got there. You got the nice 1-2 punch. You got Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler's there also as a running back. Terry McLaurin had a really good season last year. Noah Brown might get something out of there. Zach Ertz maybe finds the fountain of youth and shows not a ton of brilliance, but hey, enough to help out the team.
I like Ben Sinnott to take that position sooner than later, though. I really think this team is poised to make a run. I just don't know necessarily how they're going to gel, and that's my big X factor. That's why I don't have them higher.
Yeah.
But I think the Commanders are taking steps in the right direction. I think that they could be a sleeper team this year. I really do.
They're going to do better than they did last year, so obviously better than 4-13. I don't think they'll get into the playoffs, but they'll be in the mix late in the season. And it might come to like a few heartbreaking losses late in the season, but they'll be in the mix. I'll say this, at least until Thanksgiving.
I agree. I really do. I think I'm right there with you. I think that they're going to be fighting for that last playoff spot in December. I'm not going to say last week of the season, but I'll say Thanksgiving time, December. I think they'll still be in that conversation.
Right.
And that's a testament to Dan Quinn and the team that is finally turning this around, which I know Washington fans have been waiting for. And then, obviously, we have to talk about it. The New York Giants. They're a team.
Yeah, they are.
They have a very, very polarizing offensive strategy, I guess.
Yeah.
To put it mildly. This team.
They're bad.
They're bad.
I mean, listen, when your highlight last season, and I realize I'm borrowing from First Take, but nothing wrong was said with this statement. When your highlight last season was Tommy DeVito coming in and winning a handful of games, and yet you still didn't make the playoffs really illustrates for you how bad your season was.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized they added Malik Neighbors, who, listen, Malik Neighbors was phenomenal in college. But then again, find me somebody on that LSU team the last half a dozen years who wasn't a great offensive weapon in that system. Good Lord. But then again, it also helps when you have Jaden Daniels as your quarterback. Daniel Jones is not Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
In any way, shape, or form. Drew Lock, who is the second string quarterback for the Giants, is not Jaden Daniels in any way, shape, or form. Even if you're playing Madden and mess with the settings and mess with his stats and his ratings, is not Jaden Daniels. Tommy DeVito, not Jaden Daniels. So Malik Neighbors is good. He's got potential, but when he doesn't have anybody decent to throw to him, yeah, we'll see. And okay, Devin Singletary is there after being in Buffalo for a couple of years. He was in Houston last year. You know, that's not bad, but as we saw, they had Saquon Barkley, who was dynamic as all hell in college, and then just injuries and whatever disconnect there was, it could never get going together. But I'm looking at the rest of this team going, you've done nothing. You've added Malik Neighbors. Cool. You've added Devin Singletary. Cool. You're still overpaying for a quarterback that is average at best.
Mm-hmm.
I realize he had sexy stats in college, but let's face it, as I've said before and as I said after he was drafted, he played in the ACC at Duke.
Yep.
Duke. When is the last time Duke had a great football player come out of that program and make a real difference in the NFL? Offense, defense, or I'll even give you special teams.
Mm-hmm.
Punter, kicker, kick return, punt return. I'll give you those ones just to give you a little bit of a broader field to work with. Duke, great basketball.
Oh, yeah.
And I've said this to people who've asked me about Daniel Jones. Duke, great basketball players, not great football players.
The biggest problem the Giants have, and they have never addressed this properly.
It's their front office.
Well, I wouldn't even say their front office, but I mean, Joe Sheehan deserves a lot of the heat for this. Same thing with Brian Dabble, their head coach.
Yeah.
They haven't addressed that offensive line.
That is true.
And Daniel Jones, as much as we like to criticize him, and rightfully so, I don't think is ever going to get a fair chance in the NFL with that line protecting him, quote unquote. I'm throwing the air quotes as I'm talking, that word protection. This line is absolutely atrocious. And Daniel Jones has done a disservice to for trying to make something happen here, because obviously they're not protecting him. And the fact that the front office chose Jones over Saquon Barkley was astonishing, because this was a running back that actually made it work with this line. Daniel Jones is hit or sacked so many times he doesn't have a chance to throw. In
2023, the New York Giants were sacked the most times as a team in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I won't go through all 32. I'll give you the top 5. Number 5 was the Denver Broncos with 52. Fourth is technically tied. It's between the Tennessee Titans and New York Jets with 64. Number 2, the Washington Commanders at 65. The New York Giants, 85 times.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close.
It's not even close. So that being said, I don't care that they got Malik Neighbors as the wide receiver. Like, he could be great, sure.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to get the ball because Daniel Jones is going to be on his back half the time.
Yeah, or running for his life.
Yeah, and Devin Singletary is not a bad running back, but he's small. He's not a number one back.
Uh-huh.
He's very complimentary to a screen pass.
He's not like an Adrian Peterson who's just going to run right down the middle of the defense.
Exactly.
He's not a Josh Jacobs. He's not a who's the guy in Indianapolis?
Jonathan Taylor?
Taylor. Yeah, he's not a Jonathan Taylor. He's not. He's a Danny Woodhead. He's a James White. He's one of those catch receivers, catch running backs.
No, that's all they're going to do. Unless they run the Patriots offense, they're not going to get anywhere.
No.
And it has been announced Brian Daboll's taken over the offensive play calling duty. So that's not a good sign.
Wasn't he doing the defensive play calling last year, or he was doing something else?
No, he was an offensive guy.
So
but that's especially, remember, that's where he did in Buffalo. And everybody thought that he was the guy that fixed Josh Allen. Debatable. I mean, I've always said with him, he calls a very erratic game. That's my opinion of this. I think he's going to do the same thing here. I think the Giants are in trouble. The Giants, it's going to be a very long season. I don't really see this team turning it around. I would not doubt, and I'm not wishing it on him, Dabble gets fired.
Listen, the honeymoon phase is long since over.
That's the thing. I think him and Sheehan are both in trouble.
Yeah, I'd say mid-season, round Thanksgiving, if if it ain't looking good by then, he ain't gonna be around.
Oh, I fully agree with that. It's just unfortunate, but this team has had opportunities to fix things, and they just haven't addressed the biggest needs.
It's also the New York media. The fuse and the window is very small.
Well, that's the whole problem. That they came in, they had the great season this first year, and everybody thought, okay, the Giants are back.
Yeah.
And sadly, they're not, because that offensive line, when you win, that is the biggest Band-Aid on all issues you have.
Yep.
As long as you're winning, nobody cares. But when you start losing, and this team started losing, that's what played the key factor in everything.
Yep.
So, that said, Pat?
So looking at these teams in their first 4 games out the gate, for the Dallas Cowboys, they are on the road playing the Cleveland Browns week 1. Week 2, they're at home against the New Orleans Saints. Week 3, at home against the Baltimore Ravens. And then week 4, they are on the road Thursday Night Football playing the New York Football Giants. For the Philadelphia Eagles, they open up the regular season as I think everybody knows at this point. Technically a home game, but it's in Brazil, so it's really not, against the Green Bay Packers. That'll be on Peacock. No, not NBC. Peacock. That'll be 8:15. Week 2, they're at home against the Atlanta Falcons. That'll be on Monday Night Football. Week 3, they're on the road playing the New Orleans Saints. And then week 4, they're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And apologies to Eagles fans, your bye week is in week 5. Yikes.
Yeah.
For the New York Football Giants, they have got the Minnesota Vikings in week 1. That's a home game. Week 2, they're on the road playing the Washington Commanders. Week 3, they're on the road playing the Cleveland Browns. And then week 4, at home, Thursday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys.
I was going to say it's got to be Dallas. They always play primetime early in the season.
And then for those Washington Commanders, they open up on the road in Tampa Bay playing the Buccaneers. Week 2 is at home playing the New York Giants. Week 3 on the road playing the Cincinnati Bengals. Week 4 on the road playing the Arizona Cardinals.
So it should be interesting for the NFC East. I do say, though, Philly is the team that stands out.
Yes.
And then Dallas, Dallas could be a coin flip. It just depends on what team shows up, the one that looks great or the one that plays awful. So, and the other two are in rebuilding phases. One's going up. The other is very, very much sinking.
Oh, yeah, they are.
But you never know. We might have a breakout team that surprises everybody, much like we had in the NFC North.
Yeah.
With Pat. Who won that division?
The Detroit Lions, who finished with a record of 12-5. Green Bay Packers came in second place with a record of 9-8. Minnesota Vikings finished in third with a record of 7-10. And then you had the Chicago Bears finish in last place with a record of 7-10.
I love the Lions here. I love everything Dan Campbell has done with his team. They have a certain swagger to them.
Yeah, they do.
And when you have that swag, that definitely helps.
Swag surfing.
Well, it does, because I think for the amount of times that Detroit has been bad, and let's face it, it's been decades.
Yes.
They now have a team that really believes in itself, and legitimately, it's all due to Dan Campbell.
Yep.
He came in, bought into, I don't want to say it's like a Ted Lasso comparison, but it kind of is.
Kind of.
He got in there and got the right people to buy in.
Yep.
And on both sides of the ball, they have leaders that have stepped in and really revolutionized what they want to do. Aiden Hutchinson, I think, is a phenomenal defensive leader. And I love everything that he's done. That defense, though, does need help.
Yes.
But we have to remember one thing that I think got forgotten last year as much as they made that deep run. They had injuries at the cornerback and safety position early.
Yes, they did.
So if they can stay healthy, they can do some damage on that side of the ball. But the fact that they got as far as they did last season is a very big testament to what they built here. And you have to think the Lions knew this because their first 2 draft picks this season were cornerbacks.
Yep.
So they're taking steps to go in the right direction there. And then offensively, they were setting records left and right.
Good Lord.
They're in a good spot. They're not in anything that you got to really worry about per se. Jared Goff has really came into his own finally.
Fountain of youth.
But you know what? I think the change of scenery he had put a chip on his shoulder.
That helps.
And that definitely helps. David Montgomery and Jamar Gibbs. That's a nasty 1-2 punch at the running back position.
Filthy.
Amon St. Brown has emerged as a true number 1. Jamison Williams has been great. At the back end of the season, but St. Brown has been a complete All-Pro. Sam Laporta, has emerged as a legit number 1 tight end in this league. upsetting maybe the Travis Kelce's and the Mark Andrews of this league. I'm just saying he's in that conversation.
Could be.
So this team is poised to make a deep run, and I can't see it going any other way, Pat.
No, I don't either. I think it's going to be Detroit repeating again just because a lot of those offensive weapons still there. And like you said, their big issue was their secondary. They addressed that in the offseason. So I don't see any reason, barring some sort of injury, to say Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, maybe Laporta, or God forbid Goff. I don't see any reason why things would go any differently.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. I think their biggest test this year, though, is going to be the Green Bay Packers.
Could be.
I think the Packers did a great job about upgrading in certain areas. We're now in the Jordan Love era officially.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Jacobs is now part of this team, which I think that helps tremendously.
It's a good back.
It's a good back that can definitely take some pressure off a still developing quarterback. We have to remember that with Jordan Love.
Yep.
Love played great this season, especially when he got laid in.
Yeah.
But he did make some mistakes. I think he was putting too much pressure on himself.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you're going to see that same thing happen this season. I think he's got enough of a deep wide receiver core between Watson, Dobbs, and Reed. They're going to be okay. Luke Musgraves is a very adequate tight end.
Yeah.
Defensively, listen.
Green Bay's never been known for their defense.
They haven't been known since the late Reggie White. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
They will show up and they will definitely contend. I think they have enough pieces to get to the playoffs. I just don't know how much they're going to make a deep run after that.
Yeah, no, I think Green Bay should be good. You know, the Josh Jacobs is a nice addition, and then like you said, it kind of takes some pressure off their receiving core, so that they don't have to know they got to go ball out and catch 400 yards every game. Mm-hmm. So in theory, they should be better in the defense, and I think it'll be serviceable. It's not going to win them any games, but it should keep them in contention each week.
Oh, it absolutely will. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. And then to take a look at the team that I think is going to surprise a lot of people, the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I think it might. It's going to be interesting. They got Caleb Williams, who, of course, was the number 1 overall draft pick. They got DeAndre Swift, who I think they picked up, last season? This season? This offseason? Yeah, they picked him up this offseason. DJ Moore is there, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet. So they got a great receiving core. They got a great running back. And now you got a quarterback who I hope he pans out.
That's the big question mark with Caleb Williams, because I will pose this out there, and I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Okay.
Pat, can you name the last great NFL quarterback to come out of USC?
A lot of good ones. Not great, though.
Exactly. I think we've addressed this many times on the podcast, but if this is your first time checking us out, thank you very much for doing it. I think the last one we ever said was Carson Palmer.
Yeah. I mean, Sanchez was okay.
Okay at best.
Yeah, but after that, it's a gap in my memory. I remember guys who played at USC, but I don't think any of them ever had a great career in the NFL or even a career in the NFL.
Yeah.
Palmer's the last one I can really think of.
So Caleb Williams, I don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think he looked that great in college. Like,
he was okay.
To make that transition over. Because I just think there was a lot of stuff that I saw that was kind of like, well, this is okay.
Little interesting factors.
Yeah, I will say that kind of put it mildly. I mean, I was not blown away to say, like, he's the clear-cut number 1.
Right.
But I will say the Bears made the most of their draft picks, Rome Odunze, at the wide receiver position.
Yeah.
That's going to help out huge. Keenan Allen, getting him, I think, is a very, very good safety blanket.
It's a good move
for Caleb, and I think they've literally given him all the weapons he needs. So there is no way that he should not have some success this first season. Albeit, though, he's in a very tough division with Green Bay, who's a little step ahead of them right now, and Detroit, who is a Super Bowl contender. He does have an uphill climb, but it's not to say that if the Bears go 8-8, that would not be a win this season.
Right.
I think that that's the goal they should shoot for. They have a very steady defense. Tremont Edmonds is still there. I mean, obviously, it has not gone exactly the way I think he was expecting since he left Buffalo, but it is what it is. Montez Sweat is still there, too.
Yeah.
They have pieces to do something. It's just a matter, can they put it together? And I think that they're going to be 8-8 is better. Or I mean, 500 is best. I apologize. I'm so used to saying 8-8.
Yeah, no, they'll be at or near 500.
Yeah, so I think that they're going to be in a lot better shape than the team that I think is going to come in dead last. And
hey, talk about a shitty situation.
Man, I don't think that the beginning of the off season that we thought we'd be talking like we were going to be talking, but the Minnesota Vikings might be the worst team in football.
They don't play in the NFC South, so no.
Well, I was going to say, for where we thought they were going to be, they've got they've got some problems. I mean, obviously,
J.J. McCarthy out for the year.
Yep, their number 1 draft pick gone. Sam Darnold is going to be their starting quarterback.
And if that doesn't work, Nick Mullins is there. God help them.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't work, Brett Ryfien's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
Aaron Jones is their running back, which I mean he's
good.
He's solid. Justin Jefferson, obviously an elite wide receiver, but he's got to get the ball.
Yep.
I don't know necessarily if Darnold's going to be able to facilitate that to the level that Jefferson wants.
Nope.
Jordan Addison obviously is having some injury issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then you take a look at the rest of the team. I mean, T.J. Hawkinson's out.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, T.J. Hawkinson. Yeah, he's not going to be playing anytime soon.
So I think offensively they're going to be struggling. And
this could be a very altering year for the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, to put it mildly, I think that they're going to definitely have some issues as they progress forward. And, I mean, the defensive side of things, not exactly lighting the world on fire either.
Nope.
So I could see them. I mean, obviously, I just think this is the injury bug has got them. I think they're going to be struggling a lot. It is what it is. So, like I say, I'm going to make the bold statement. I think they're going to be arguably in that number 1 draft pick talk next season, and it's just due to injuries. Because as the season goes on, obviously they amount and they build. So unless they find some magic somewhere, I think they're going to be struggling.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree with you 100%. Looking at these teams in their first month of the season, for the Detroit Lions, they open up the regular season at home against the Los Angeles Rams. That one will be on Sunday Night Football. Week 2, at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Week 3, on the road playing the Arizona Cardinals. And then week 4 is against the Seattle Seahawks. That one will be on Monday Night Football. For the Green Bay Packers, they open up the regular season on the road, or at home, whatever you want to call it, against the Philadelphia Eagles, although that one is this upcoming Friday. That's the game in Brazil. After that, week 2 is at home against the Indianapolis Colts. Week 3 is on the road playing the Tennessee Titans. And then week 4 is at home against the Minnesota Vikings. Then you've got those same Minnesota Vikings who open up the regular season on the road playing the New York Giants. Week 2 is at home against the San Francisco 49ers. Week 3 is at home against the Houston Texans. Week 4 is on the road playing the Green Bay Packers. Though, hey, Vikings fans, I'm so sorry your bye week is in week 6. Yikes. Then lastly, certainly not leastly, for the Chicago Bears, they open up the regular season at home against the Tennessee Titans. Week 2 is on the road playing the Houston Texans. Week 3 is on the road playing the Indianapolis Colts. And then week 4 is at home against the Los Angeles Rams.
Yeah, so overall it's going to look like a very, very tough road for any team not named Detroit or Green Bay out of that division. But as they say, anything is possible.
This is true.
So that being said, hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. We gave you our thoughts about the NFC East and the NFC North. We're going to come back and talk the NFC South and the NFC West on the special edition of the ODPH podcast.
Do you like comic books?
What about movies and TV shows?
Well, we may be the show for you.
We're Hops Geek News, a weekly podcast that discusses comics, movies, and TV shows while featuring a beer of the week.
Every week we chat about what we messed up on the week before, and then we dive into what we're reading and watching, as well as some news.
We then wrap it up with a geek-themed topic of the week.
You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts by searching Hops Geek News.
Cheers.
Coming back for the second segment on this special NFL preview edition of the ODPH podcast. Last segment, we talked the NFC East and the NFC North. Because of contract obligations, we have to talk about the NFC South.
I'm filing this segment under protest.
Yeah, I think we all are because, let's face it, this is the worst division in all of football.
Uh-huh.
I don't think there's a lot of question marks about this, so we will probably fly through this very quickly, but we're obviously open to talk to all the fans, hashtag ODPH pod after this.
Try telling us we're wrong.
Yeah, because I think obviously you and I probably are agreeing there's one team in here that's maybe a contender, question mark. And that's
Trial by combat.
Yeah, it's
Fatal 4-way.
Yeah, it's the Atlanta Falcons. I think we'll take a look at how everything ended up last season, but I think this season it's clear-cut Atlanta.
So the last season, the NFC South was won by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who finished with a record of 9-8. The second place was the New Orleans Saints, who finished with a record of 9-8. Third place was the Atlanta Falcons, who finished with a record of 7-10. And last place was the Carolina Panthers, who finished with a record of 2-15.
Yeah. So as I alluded to, I mean, obviously it's Atlanta and everybody else. I think that's probably the nicest way we can put it. Kirk Cousins leaving Minnesota for a monster contract to helm the offensive duties with the Falcons. So he is there, but then when the first draft pick for Atlanta came, they took Michael Penix Jr. Mm-hmm. So the heir apparent is there. So I don't really understand what's going on here, but that's kind of what the deal is going on with Atlanta. Because, Pat, who is Atlanta?
What is Atlanta?
Atlanta's a big question mark. Bijan Robinson is the running back. Obviously, he's slated to have a breakout year. We'll still wait and see. Drake London and Darnell Mooney are the wide receivers. And Kyle Pitts, the perennial, will he finally break through at tight end? I think this is a boom or bust year for him, to be honest with you. I don't think there's any question about that. Defensively, nobody really scares me on this team, but I think by default, on paper, this is probably the best offensive team in the NFC South.
I mean, listen, you got a lot more faith in the Atlanta Falcons than I do. I mean, I'm looking at the Atlanta Falcons. Like you said, they got Kirk Cousins. They drafted Michael Penix Jr. Bijan Robinson is there. He had an okay year last year. Wasn't exactly anything. It was a stellar first couple of games, and then teams seemed to figure him out. And
they got very one-dimensional with him.
Yeah, Drake London, again, all the potential, hasn't really shown it outside of his first couple of games. His rookie year, Darnell Mooney, he's not bad. Ray McLeod, the third, again, he's okay. Nothing stellar. Kyle Pitts, again, much in the same vein of Bijan Robinson and Drake London. Great first couple of games in his rookie year, but no flashes of brilliance since. You know, and I get Kirk Cousins is there, but Kirk Cousins and Matt Flynn's agents need to write a book on how to get their agent or their representatives money, because that is a feat that needs to be studied by science. Because Kirk Cousins in his career in Minnesota had a passer rating of 103.3 with 11,709 yards passing, 88 touchdowns, and 27 interceptions. That is through 44 games for the Minnesota Vikings during his career. For his entire NFL career, one playoff win.
Yeah.
And that was in the 2020 season. That was in the 2019 season, so it was in January 2020 against the New Orleans Saints, where they won. They won in the wild card, and then they went the next round in the divisional round and played the San Francisco 49ers, and, well, they lost. Kirk Cousins ain't the guy.
No,
he's not the guy. I realize Penix Jr. is there. It's Penix might be the guy, but Atlanta needs a lot of work. You know, the offensive line isn't anything good. Defense isn't anything good. You know, I just don't think Atlanta's going to contend, but, you know, I think if anything, it's going to come down to either Tampa Bay or New Orleans. You know, if Kamara is able to have a bounce back year, because I know Kamara down in New Orleans didn't have the greatest year offensively last year, when you compare it to his season prior in 2022, you know, so I think if Kamara can bounce back and they can get a little bit more production out of their receivers, Chris Olave's down there, Rashid Shaheed is there, A.T. Perry, Juwan Johnson is the tight end. Listen, Carr ain't anything bad. Carr's got an arm on him, that's for damn sure, but I think it's going to come down to between either Tampa Bay, because Baker's still there. Baker, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, re-upped with Tampa Bay, so he's going to be there for a few years. Rashad White's there. He's not a bad running back. Still got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, two of the best receivers in the NFL right now, you know, that aren't named Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase. So, I mean, ultimately, I really would think this is going to come down to either the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Saints, but if you forced to make a pick, probably Tampa Bay.
See, I take Tampa Bay in that equation too, just because I think they're better on paper. But it's not by much. I mean, Baker Mayfield found the fountain of youth. He actually looked like the quarterback that we were all expecting when the Browns took him. He's having a resurgence down there because I think there's no pressure on him. I think that he can play his game, and not saying nobody cares, but I think that he's got less pressure on him because he was expected to be the fill-in, and now he's the starter. He still has Mike Evans and Chris Godwin down there, and that's a solid two combination for wide receivers. Everybody else is serviceable.
Yeah.
But in comparison to the Saints, I mean, Derek Carr is there, but Derek Carr has been average at best, I think, when it comes to plays. Like, I think he's had some great games, and he's had some ones you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I think that's just my opinion. I think that he plays solid, but like I say, it's nothing to wow. I mean, Olave is a great wide receiver. He can get the ball in his hands, but Kamara's not the same Kamara that we've seen.
Speaking from experience, because I had him on my fantasy, he definitely had a down year.
Yeah, so can he reclaim that glory? I don't know.
I sure should hope so. Man won me a fantasy championship one year single-handedly.
I mean, him and Jamal Williams is a great 1-2 combo.
Yeah.
But how many times they could be running if they're down?
True.
I mean, that's
True.
the big factor in that defense. I mean, Honey Badger's there, but
Yeah.
other than that,
Then there's the Panthers, who they might be in with the Patriots, contending for a top 5 pick again this year.
the Panthers have got a lot of work.
Yeah, they do.
Just to put it mildly, I mean, just to say we talked about them, I guess.
Did they even do anything in the offseason?
Not to my knowledge. I mean, Bryce Young, former Alabama quarterback.
Yeah. Chuba Hubbard's one of the running backs that got Miles Sanders. So they added him from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Deontay Johnson's there. Adam Thielen, Jonathan Mingo, Tommy Tremble. I mean, again, outside of maybe Thielen as like a late round, I need a filler 1 week for a couple weeks with my wide receivers in fantasy. I'm not really picking any of these guys up in fantasy.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's nothing about Carolina that scares you or wows you.
No.
It isn't. I mean, they've drafted, I mean, Leggett from South Carolina and Jonathan Brooks from Texas to try sparking the offense.
Yeah.
But after that,
Looking at these teams in their first 4 games of the season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they open up the regular season at home against the Washington Commanders. Week 2 is on the road playing the Detroit Lions. Week 3 is at home against the Denver Broncos. Week 4 is at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. For the New Orleans Saints, they open up the regular season at home against the Carolina Panthers. Week 2 is on the road playing the Dallas Cowboys. Week 3 at home playing the Philadelphia Eagles. Week 4 on the road playing the Atlanta Falcons. Speaking of those Atlanta Falcons, they open up the regular season playing the Pittsburgh Steelers at home. Week 2 is on the road playing the Philadelphia Eagles. That'll be Monday Night Football. Week 3 is at home against the Kansas City Chiefs. That'll be Sunday Night Football. And then week 4 is at home against the New Orleans Saints. Then you got the Carolina Panthers, who open up the regular season on the road playing the New Orleans Saints. Week 2 is at home against the Los Angeles Chargers. Week 3 is on the road playing the Las Vegas Raiders. And then week 4 is at home playing the Cincinnati Bengals.
Well, like we say, the NFC South has to be there, so
Somebody's got to win.
somebody's got to win that.
So that's why I say NFC East is not the worst division in football.
No, but the South gives a good run for the money. One division we don't have to worry about that is the NFC West.
Smash mouth football, baby.
Yeah, this one is a fun one to watch.
Ooh, baby.
Great rivalries here, and I think obviously it's tough to go against the San Francisco 49ers.
This is true.
I think they're probably the most well-rounded team in all of football.
As we were recording, they re-upped their tackle, Trent Williams, 3-year, $82.66 million deal, $48 million at signing, $25.69 million signing bonus.
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
So they definitely have great things on both sides of the balls, and
they do.
and I always say John Lynch, I think, might be the best GM in all of football.
He's in the conversation.
So he has made a lot of magic happen. Brock Purdy, they still have a very, very good deal with his contract. Who else is on the team, Pat?
Christian McCaffrey's still there. I realize he's got the hamstring or whatever issue he's got going on, but hey, listen, when you got Deebo Samuel is still there, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, George Kittle, you don't exactly need to be the feature weapon on offense every single down, so it works out wonderfully.
Yeah. And defensively, I mean, Nick Bosa is still there. And,
Yep.
I mean, you just take a look at Fred Warner. I mean,
Yeah.
they have got just such a stacked backfield.
Yeah, they do.
Jadarius Ward. I mean, like you could go through this name of roster. and-
I'm almost glad that Pat McAfee was able to work whatever magic he did to get Bill Belichick on his show on a weekly thing, and then also doing the Peyton Manning pre-show Monday night, whatever it is he's doing. Because can you imagine Bill Belichick coaching this defense? Oh my God.
They'd legit go undefeated.
It'd be the scariest thing ever.
It would be legit undefeated.
Yeah.
Not going to lie. Because that would be the closest you get to the 86 Bears or 85 Bears
85 Bears, yeah.
if Belichick was coaching this team. But he's not, but they're still very scary nevertheless. And,
Yeah.
and like I say, if they can all stay healthy.
Yeah.
We saw what happened when Purdy stayed healthy last season.
True.
So we have to keep that in mind.
True.
So taking a look at the rest of the division, though, I think the next best team right there is Seattle.
Okay.
I think it's hard to go against them.
All right.
I mean, obviously, what they're doing up there with all the roster moves they've had the past couple seasons has been astonishing. Geno Smith has found I don't know where he's found it, but God bless him, he's found success up there because he, I think, is probably the best comeback story we've had in the league in a couple years.
Yeah, I would say so.
Kenneth Walker is at the running back very, very solid
Yeah.
when he's healthy.
Yeah.
DJ Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, solid 1-2
Good
combination.
1-2, and then you got Smith. You got Jackson Smith there too. Not a bad third.
No. And, I mean, obviously, Noah Fant, still great there, too. Like I say, they're
They're
pieces.
solid.
They've got pieces all around.
Yeah.
And that defense, like I say, is not the Legion of Boom from years past.
Right.
And they will definitely make some noise in this division. Like they will probably give the 49ers a good run, but the biggest question mark with this team is staying healthy.
Yeah.
That's the biggest question mark with
Because,
this
I mean,
squad.
there's some decent offensive weapons, as we alluded to, but then you look at the depth chart and you look at who's coming up after these guys, next man up. It's a big drop-off.
Yeah. So if they can avoid the injury bug, which unfortunately that running back position has been cursed with,
Yep.
if they can avoid it, I mean, this team will contend. I will even say this. They might give the 49ers a run for the money for the division.
Okay.
They legit will. I think the next up, though, has to be the Los Angeles Rams.
Right.
I think that with all the problems they had last year with injuries, and especially with Stafford and his arm, which, I mean, I don't know what we're going to get this year. I hope he's 100% ready to rock. We'll have to wait and see. But obviously with Kyron Williams and Blake Corum as the running back, that's a solid one. And, I mean, take a look at the rest of the lineup pad.
Yeah, so they got Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, DeMarcus Robinson, Colby Parkinson as some of their other offensive weapons. And, hey, listen, things don't go well for Matthew Stafford this year. Got a couple studs behind him. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo, but he is suspended the first couple of games of the season. Stetson Bennett, the rookie out of Georgia, who had a real good college career. So, hey, if something goes wrong with Stafford again this year, it's not going to be a huge question of what the hell are we going to do. Well, I think you got a pretty good solid plan in place. That's why for me, I've got the 49ers obviously finishing first. I've got the Rams actually finishing second. Just because I think you look at obviously you got the questions with quarterback with is Stafford going to be able to stay healthy, but I look at those other guys between Stetson Bennett, Jimmy Garoppolo. That's a good backup plan, and it's not like in a case of like the New York Jets where Aaron Rodgers got hurt in the first 5 minutes of the game, and then you're like, shit, what do we do for the rest of the season because we spent all this time, all this money on Aaron Rodgers, and we didn't plan on a backup. You've got a pretty good two-step backup there between Stetson Bennett and then Jimmy Garoppolo if Stetson doesn't really show anything great by the time Garoppolo comes back from the suspension. Plus, you got Kyron Williams is there. Kyron Williams, I think, is going to have a real good year. Cooper Kupp, enough said. And then you got Puka Nacua, who had a phenomenal year last year. I think really it's going to be a real good bounce back year for the Rams. I don't know if they'll necessarily get to the Super Bowl, but I think they could definitely make a run.
See, I don't think they're going to get there because Aaron Donald is no longer there.
True.
We have to remember that the defense is going to be a lot different.
True.
Tre'Davious White is in the backfield now, which helps.
Yeah.
But can he stay healthy? I mean, I hope he does. I really hope he can come back strong and be the Tre'Davious White of old. But I obviously coming back from back-to-back leg injuries, that's tough. That's really tough. But this team will contend, and I think that's just something Sean McVay has built out there. But it really depends on the health issues. That's going to be the key factor because if they really get hit with the injury bug, they're in trouble.
Oh, yeah.
And then we got the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah.
Which, I
They're
mean,
making improvements.
they're taking steps in the right direction, but is it enough? I mean, take a look at their lineup pad.
Yeah, so Kyler Murray should be back for a full season this year. I know he missed part of the season last year. James Conner still there at running back. They added Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft this past offseason. Michael Wilson, one of their other wide receivers. Greg Dortch is their other wide receiver. Trey McBride there at tight end. Some of the other offensive weapons they've got: Trey Benson, Amari DeMarcado, DJ Dallas, Chris Moore, Zay Jones when he comes back from suspension will be there as an offensive weapon. Plus you've got Zach Pascal, Xavier Weaver, and then you've also got Elijah Higgins, Tip Ryman, and Travis Vokolek. So got some potential there. I think they'll do better than 4-13, but not anywhere near playoff contention.
No, they're definitely not. I mean, they need a lot of retooling. I mean, that defense. I mean, they're not lights out like they used to be. To be honest,
right.
So they're going to need a lot of work, and especially in that division, I think it's going to be a tough hill. It's going to be a very, very tough hill to climb. So that's why I say I could see them just maybe if they're lucky, they could make a run for 500, but I just don't think they got enough weapons to do it. I mean, offensively, they should be good, but then again, I don't think they want to get into a shootout every game.
Probably not.
Which, unfortunately, I think that's what you're going to have with this team.
It's entirely possible.
Like I say, that defense, that's the only thing I think really holding this team back. It's not like, the Ken Wisenhunt days where they really had a solid defense.
Let it fly, baby.
Yeah, so we'll have to wait to see what happens here, but there's a lot of storylines coming out of this division as well. Mm-hmm. As much as the NFC South, I mean, there is some storylines because somebody has to win it, so we have to figure that out, ODPH Society. So in the meantime, hit us up on the hashtag ODPH Pod. What is your thoughts about the NFC South and the NFC West? And then we're going to come back and crown who is going to be going to the Super Bowl out of the NFC and who's going to win it all on the special edition of the ODPH podcast.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you better listen to the ODPH podcast, or I'm coming for you, and Batman is coming for you.
Coming back for the final segment on this NFL preview edition of the ODPH podcast. It's all about the NFC, but before we get into that, Pad, there's a couple special games that you definitely want to bring attention to before we crown who's going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, so a couple of holiday games, a couple of special things you should look out for because, hey, holiday games are usually pretty good. There is a game taking place this year on Halloween, so that's a Thursday night. It's the Houston Texans taking on the New York Jets. That'll be on 8:15 on Prime Video. So depending on, who you root for, it might be a trick, might be a treat, might be something scary. Never know. Then there is the traditional Thanksgiving Day games. Got 3 of them. Obviously, 2 of them are involving the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys. You've got the Chicago Bears taking on the Detroit Lions, 12:30 p.m. Eastern on CBS. Then you've got the New York Giants and the Dallas Cowboys, 4:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Boy, is that going to make some unhappy folks at Thanksgiving at the dinner table. Then 8:20 p.m. on NBC and Peacock is going to be the Miami Dolphins taking on the Green Bay Packers.
Ooh, okay.
So that one should be good. And then you do have a couple of Christmas Day games taking place this year. The first of which, both of these are on Netflix, I should note. The first one is at 1 o'clock. It is the Kansas City Chiefs taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh. Second one is the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Houston Texans in Houston. That one's at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. So, and again, those are on Netflix. So definitely,
that's interesting.
Yeah, that should be interesting. I don't know who they've got calling those games for that. I have not seen any announcements or reports made, but some of the more interesting games on the holidays you should check out.
That is very cool. Before we get into that, though, Pat, fantasy football is going on right now.
Uh-huh.
Any recommendations for the listening audience?
Not anybody from the New England Patriots.
Okay.
Legitimately. I know running back might be a decent one because Ramondre Stevenson is usually pretty good, but like I said in the previous episode, the New England Patriots offensive line has more holes than Swiss cheese. So I wouldn't take anybody out of New England this year. I'd say some of the rookie wide receivers, not Marvin Harrison Jr., because I get the feeling for a lot of drafts he's going to go early. But I'd say some of the rookie wide receivers. There was a pretty decent rookie wide receiver class this year, so there might be some interesting stuff out of them this year.
Yeah, I gotta say Roma Doozy. I think that's one that people should be really keeping an eye on for. I'll even say Chase Brown from Cincinnati.
There you go.
Because I don't know how Zach Brown is going to do as the number one because reasons. But we'll have to wait to see. But we have to give our picks now because of the NFC and then who is going to the big game. So, Pat, who you got?
So, for my NFC playoffs, I've got the Eagles, Lions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, because somebody's got to win that fucking division.
Yeah.
And then the San Francisco 49ers. And for my wild card teams, I've got the Dallas Cowboys, the LA Rams, and the Green Bay Packers.
So, for me, I got Philly winning out of the East with Dallas being the first wild card there. I've got the Lions taking the North with Green Bay right behind them. And then, obviously, the Falcons because somebody has to win the South. There's no other way to put it. So I do have the 49ers winning the West and Seattle getting that last playoff spot.
Okay.
So that being said, Pat, who you got representing the NFC and then who you got winning the whole thing?
So for the NFC Championship, I'm going to go with the Philadelphia Eagles.
All right.
Just because I think they're really going to bounce back great this year. So for my prediction for the Super Bowl this year will be the Cincinnati Bengals against the Philadelphia Eagles, and I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals winning the whole thing.
Okay. Well, Pat, this is a rarity because you and I both agree about the NFC.
Hey.
I think this is going to be Philadelphia's year. I think San Francisco is going to give them a good run. I really do, but I think Philly, if they can put it together, and I think they will with Saquon there, I think that's going to be the biggest game changer for them. I think that they're going to punch their ticket to the Super Bowl. However, though, I really have the sinking suspicion this is the last for the Chiefs.
Okay.
And I think the Chiefs are going to win. In fact, they'll even
first ever team to three-peat in the NFL, that is.
Yeah, I think it's a rarity, but I think just for reasons, I think they get there. I mean, the one thing about them, I mean, like I say, I'm not rooting for this. This is not a pick that you can hear the sound of joy in my voice.
Mm-hmm.
But I just feel that with the amount of off-field stuff going on for Travis Kelce,
right,
and I think that Patrick Mahomes, I mean, they're so used to winning there, it's tough to stay motivated year in and year out. And I think Andy Reid is getting up there too. I mean, what else are you going to do?
Yeah.
So I think that this is going to be the last run between all three of those gentlemen on the team, Mahomes, Kelsey, and Reed.
I think they're going to do well, but they're just going to come into every single game, every single week with the biggest target on their back
absolutely.
in NFL history. And I'm not saying teams are going to go dirty and they're going to start hitting them dirty, but the defensive players especially are going to be going in with something a little bit extra to try and stop that team and knock them off. Sometimes it'll be successful and they'll lose, and sometimes it won't.
No, I agree with you. I think that they're going to be.
I just think they're going to go get into the playoffs. They're going to be so beaten, battered, and bruised because they're going to be playing, 17 games or 16 games, whatever the number is.
Yeah.
Of just smash mouth football every single week. That there's just because they're going to get played tougher this season than they've ever been played in the Patrick Mahomes era. Just because every team is going to be coming for them because they want to be the team and they want to be the players that say, we help stop the three-peat.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that they're going to have as much animosity as the undefeated Patriots did.
Agreed.
I fully think that. I think every team is really going to make a point to take them out. And is it possible? Absolutely. Could I see Cincinnati winning? I fully can. Could I see the Bills win? I hope so. Could I even see a team like Baltimore sneaking in?
Sure.
Yeah. I think the AFC has so much parity amongst its head teams. You could really plug and play a lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
I am just going off the simple fact that I think for as well as this organization has run, I think eventually your luck has to run out.
Then they've had an extraordinarily good run.
Right. I mean, I'm not saying like the Patriots type run.
Right.
But I think that they have built something here. But I think the factors that are coming into play is it's very tough to motivate millionaires to continue to show up and show out in this level for this long. And we already know, I mean, Travis Kelce, if he leaves Kansas City, that whole dynamic changes.
Yes.
So if he goes, we know the wide receiver core is going to drop. And I think Mahomes knows this because I think just Kelce is getting up there with more opportunities that he wants to do. And listen, I'm not hating on him about this. I'm really not. I just feel that if he's going to commit to this season, he's going to commit to this season, and then I think it's done. So that's why I say I think they go out, and it's going to be a close game. In fact, they'll even say it's 24-21.
Okay, and just for reference, Travis Kelce is 34 years old. He turns 35 a couple weeks, actually, October 5th. Gronkowski was about 33 years old when he retired.
Exactly. And you have to think about the amount of punishment that Kelce has taken.
Gronk took even more.
Right. But the fact that teams are really going to be targeting him on the game plan, not saying targeting him as a person,
right?
But they're going to really make sure he has a very tough time scoring.
I would not be surprised if teams start using a lot of the same stuff that was used against Rob Gronkowski.
Oh, I wouldn't either.
In some of those later New England years.
I'm just going to say this. I mean, if the Chiefs get there, it'll be a testament that they have survived because I think that they...
It ain't going to be easy.
No, they're going to be on everybody's calendar as the team to beat. And I think the Raiders have shown the blueprint of how to do it.
Agreed.
And I think you're going to see a lot more teams implement what Antonio Pierce and company have done. That, they're going to make sure they go punch him in the mouth very, very much. And I think if Mahomes gets there, because I think his talent is good enough, but, I mean, the body can only take so much.
This is true.
If they can get there, I think they're going to win, but I don't think it's going to be an easy road by any means. I think you might even see an overtime game go down in those AFC playoffs.
Yeah.
But it's a hell of a time of the year, though, Pat. We're still all undefeated for 2 more days as we're recording.
This is true.
So definitely hit us up on the hashtag ODPH Pod. Let us know how your team is doing. Are we talking Super Bowl? Are we talking fantasy football? Or are we talking another kind of,
toilet bowl?
Thank you. That's what I was trying to look for, but I'm like, I can't find a good word to say that. But we definitely are very excited to talk football, and we're going to be doing locks and leaps this year with our friends on our social media as well, so definitely keep an eye out for that. So to end it all, for anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. That's it for this week. So for the one only Padawan J.
Fuck the Astros.
I'm your host, Ken M. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. Let's go play some football.
It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. 'Cause anyone who's worth a damn be worth way more than a picture could ever show. You could find the right light, find the right angle, and never find your soul. And it can feel like a losing battle, and this plot is full of holes. This modern way of finding love just makes me feel so alone. And I can't be the only one sick of staring at my phone. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Don't know that I believe in the old time fable. Everyone has just one true love. All I know is you're across this table, and you're all I'm thinking of. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Ooh, ooh, talk to me. Ooh, talk to me. It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know.